A pleasant evening, everyone, especially to you, ma'am. I am Marlo Banuag, Bshm to be. So today, we discussed or we tackled in chapter 9, which is organizations of personnel. The most complicated problem of the business is the people. Technical processes may be mastered and requirements of materials may be correctly in the figure plans and the offices may be built in according to required specification. And also it's indicate or in machine may be devised or performed with accuracy. But in the human elements of the business is will be discarded to travel is ahead. And the human being essentially is differ from each other. Human beings are also a certain extent selfish both by nature and environment. A person who is altruist is one who has regard for his devote to interests of others and himself alone. Altruism is a cerebral trait of aspired for, but it is generally hard to among people of its ideal form. There are some people who are since lack of even trace of altruisms in their makeups, and still others believe that there is such things as enlightened of self-interest, which may be made to benefit everybody through corporations, and those self-interests and the welfare of others do not have to conflict with each other. Both can be achieved and justified at the same time. Next, we proceed the basic personal problem. The basic problem about the personnel is that the employer has work to be done. The employee wants to receive his work, enough money to live according to the standard of the living as established for himself. Next is increasing efficiencies of workers. The desires of employer to be bring down his cost of production and the desire of employee have to adequate return from his effort are two economic objectives acting opposite to each other. And also, both objectives may be attained by increasing of efficiency of the workers. This simplifying means that making it possible for employee to accomplish more work less with effort and less time. Efficiency. Efficiency is usually enhanced by the through personal methods, which can increase the worker's output 2 or 3 times. The lower production cost and increased wage is simultaneous. Training is, for example, it is a important factor or responsible for the increased efficiency of the workers. So the personal function is involved the relationship of management, employees and employees among themselves in all matters except the actual productive process. The directions and control of all human resources is called manpower management. It is include not only the personal organization and administrations, but this handling of employees by their line supervisor. Industrial relationship is the term of gaining withered or acceptance in the present day business organization, and also it highlights of the growing importance of labor employment relationship of a factor and also in a business. So we have in successful personal organizations and administrations, there are 6 main factors involved, namely, first, analyze the job. Second, selection and tasting of applicant. Third is inductions and training. Fourth, supervision and personal actions in the work process. Number 5 is providing an incentive together with the wage administration. 6 is cooperation between the labor and management. It is a very important that we have our personal or we have the factor to gather to steps by steps in the preparation of the management. analysis job, the job analysis is a long had to recognize meaning with corresponding objectives. So first is analysis of the applies for more or less superficial study of each job or work and satisfactorily, and the resulting of information is summarized in the job specifications, which is used in selecting applicant for employment. And the objective is to make a possible for interviewer rather, and to match of intelligently an applicant to qualifying with the requirements of the job. Second is the job analysis means that improvements of methods of doing work and also in descripting of work rather than describing it. So this kind of analysis rather is the first steps is to determine the whether of work and really to necessary, if the work can be eliminated or therefore there more time to needed to spend on the elimination and necessary work for considered in the first technical steps in any improvements in program. Next is study time. The purpose of the time study is to distinguish from motion analysis is to determine the required performance of each elements of the operations, each operations in the job, and also the job itself. First steps is to provide the basis or the basic of comparing the performance of the same job and also to establish the standard and doing their own work. And it is very important because it is a consideration of disregard and the variations of the times and the causes. One, remember the thing that any variations standard of operation must be eliminated or minimized the provided of courses and the condition of standardized. Second is to make possible and the payment of workers and the production of basis or in on the basis of output. For instance, the worker cannot be have a good accomplishment per hour, and also he is being paid for what actually does and simply is a stated amount of in output of it. Next is selection and testing of applicants. The selections of a person based filtered to do of the work involves are finding the source of desirable applicants and the followed by interviewing and tasting and choosing from who available ones who must really have a required of qualifications. It is very important that we should to have the people we need to gather the interview to know their informations herself, and also it is the most important if he is deserved to be work in your company. Next is source of applicant. The science and arts employment and recruiting is not as the highly developed in the Philippines as industrialized countries. The fact that almost 10% of labor force is employed or seriously and underemployed results in the abundance of oversupply. The laborers, certain types of personnel like lawyers, however, there are the storage of management personnel and supervisors and the various types of skilled work women. We have the source of labor supplied and we are the following. First is the events, new openings, promotions, or vaccines, and the companies should always look at the present employees. And second is former employees and satisfactory required and variable resources of occasions list. And third is friends and relative present employees are a good resource or resources, and many establishment, especially the financial houses, and however and careful the hire of the percent of employees in conclusions. And fourth is newspaper advertisements are always effective resources in the Philippines. And fifth is school, college, and training agencies are resources of specific types of help, and especially in the younger and experienced applicants who are in promotional possibilities. Sixth is Department of Labor and Office Empowerment and Services rather, and which has an act of employment and agencies in the Philippines. In the private employment and agents are good resources, although in the Philippines where the software and a premium of notifications with our recruiting housemaid and domestic helper. Seven is skilled workers rather, and supervisors in the letters of applicants and their own valuations of the business of firms. Eight is in a companies with a labor union files and percent of other resources. The selection of procedure. This involved is a sequence of functions and adapted in a given case of purpose of a certain whether or not candidate powers of qualifications called by the specific job. In the same case of qualification, is the progressions of jobs are considered when the promotional possibilities are important, and this is hiring procedure cannot be effectively placed in operation until there are three steps have been taken. First is requirements of the job will be filled have been specified. Second is qualification workers must be possessed have been specified. Third is candidate for screening have been recruited rather. The selections of promising candidate from the group of applicants is not easy. A certain fact of or a feature such as sex, age, schooling, previous employment are the readily and certain and trick on the other hand, and also distinguishable and ones that make of choice of difficult. Suppose an applicant has a work of a certain times in a certain company. Next is tasting ability and aptitude. So in addition to the factors considered in judging the applicants, it is desirable to find two other things. First, whether the applicant has any disease or tendency to disease which might spread among other employees or which might interfere with his own work sooner or later. This is done through a medical examination. Second is the applicant present the level knowledge, ability, and intelligence with respect to their contemplated rather. This is done through test. And also the personal administration has come up the test which is look into second requirements. This test first is intelligence test, second is aptitude test, and third is vocational test or vocational interest test, and fourth is proficiency test, and fifth is personality test. So first we discussed the intelligence test. So this is a useful, but it is a tendency to be overstated in the score of record. The person who are according to the other factors have a reasonable chance to be success. It is important score for a genius, a very high or IQ, and also the aptitude testing it is important wherein no occupational ability is expected to or expected out of outset, and also the ability will be required through training and experience on the job. And proficiency testing, it is the other hand, it is determined whether or not applicant to possess or the specific capacity, ability, and skills, and also skills and required of the job which is being considered. In the other words, aptitude tests indicate training ability for a certain kinds of work which is trained is most like to test to determine the amount of applicant to do work. And also, therefore, the process of employment personnel may be summarized in steps by steps and as the followed: first, filling up the applicant's forms and contracting the source of applicant. Second, giving of test. Third is interview and selected applicant. Fourth is medical or physical examination. Fifth is investigations as a background, interview of references, and also like and demand if necessary. Sixth is inductions of new employees. Next is the purpose of induction. So one of the purpose of induction is give to the new employees information about the company and also the requirements and the facilities provided for the employees. Such information includes the working hours, the rate of pay, the pay days, the absences and trainings requirements, vacations, special facilities, training procedure. In the conduct of training, it is just enough to tell the new employees to do his work. Frequently, has to be shown or to demonstrations should be handled clearly in 20 workers rather can easily to understand and follow the steps. One of the first things as a instructor must be learned to be have the patience with a trainer who is easily or trying to learn. Some authorities put the entire burden and the structure in the statements which say if the workers isn't learned, the instructor isn't stop. So we have the different steps in training. First, be sure that the new employees understand what you have in mind. 2. Show him carefully what you want to be done, using patience, going the details, and explaining the importance of each step. Third is have him which someone perform the works and let him to ask questions. Fourth is review the instruction rather. 5 is let him to practice the underwork of supervision slowly in the first steps in his time and correctly false moves in efficient and explanation. Let him to continue the practice until the mastered is the correct methods. 6 is review the instructions again. And 7 is let him get more patient and gaining proficiency continuously until the output or approach and a standard for set of work. So we next proceed to the internship training. This is a joint program of training which in school, businesses cooperate and selected students carry on and regular school studies and periods of rigouring from business or 3 9 of months, and also it is some factory or office for designated period of time. Interning, this is a fashion until the course of completed and also the students is ready to accept the permanent employment. And this training is usually conducted in the connections with the high skills and or proficient types of training in the Philippines College of Arts and Trade of Don Bosco often cooperate with industry in this way to train and to provide vocational helps. Next, we have learner training. During period of heavy demands for the short supply or semi-skilled labor industry has a phase of task or training green. And highly our learners are usually receive a program of educations and training. It is necessary because the learners come into industry without the requirements of industrial knowledge. Wage administration is an integral part of work personnel administration. Wage instructors have be set up. Employees must be paid according to their performance. Desirable employees must be attracted and enter the company, and once inside, must be encouraged to remain them. And from the point of view of the company, it must also avoid excessive wage payments. It's its needs to wage structures as a sound basis of budget and estimates they simplify on collective of waging process. The basic responsibility for wage administration is rests with top management, but the personal manager facilitates the determination of wage policy. He conducts the wage survey and also he is the motions and staff and management. If he collected the bargaining established authorities contractions personnel during the collectives of bargaining stocks. So we have the first, it should be such as the maintaining of standard living which employers is consumes it should be same wage paid with community for less or the same kind of works. Second is they should within the capacity of the company to pay. And third, it must be comparable by privileging wage and rest of community. Fourth is wage should be related to output. And five is wage should plan should be readily understood employees if your incentive plan, and these should be frequently so that the employees can see the result of its increased efforts. And six is wage system should be facilitate the collections cost data. Other personal actions. The other personal actions may take from the form of promotions, transfers, disciplinary actions, and separation. So we have the scope of transfer and promotions. Maybe the vaccines are filled by the internal movement of present employees. This movement is in the transfer and promotions, this form of terms that refer change with pay and privilege. And also there had the primary purpose to transfer or promotion to increase the effectiveness of the organization and attain the service of profit objectives. And also, we have transfer may be classified into those who are convenience of employees and those for the convenience of the company. And transfers of employees' convenience may be the family problems, increased or decreased capacity of employees, the personal perseverance, desires, and the other personal reasons. Hello everyone, so before we're gonna end our discussion, I hope you learned something. And before that, I would like to read a quote first. So, employees who believe that management is concerned about them as a whole person, not just an employee, are more productive, more satisfied, more fulfilled, and satisfied employees means satisfied customer, which leads to profitability according to Anthony Molka.